The metal walls of Titan 7 shook violently as something massive slammed against them from inside. Captain Park wiped sweat from his forehead and checked his watch again. 3 hours, until the next feeding attempt. 3 hours, until another handler might die. The creature they called the Vorthok stood 12 feet tall, behind the glowing energy barrier. Its black armored skin looked like it could stop bullets. Sharp claws scraped against the floor as it paced back and forth like a caged animal. But this was no ordinary animal. This was a weapon left behind by an ancient alien race, and it was supposed to win the war for humanity. Instead, it had become their worst nightmare. "Sir, the medical team just finished with Handler Martinez," said Lieutenant Kim, his voice shaking slightly. "That makes 17 dead in 3 months. The creature killed him in less than 5 seconds. Park nodded without taking his eyes off the beast. Through the thick glass, he could see its strange eyes glowing with an alien intelligence. Sometimes he felt like it was looking right into his soul, reading his thoughts and finding him weak. The war with the hive aliens had been going badly for 3 years. The insect-like creatures were winning on every front. Then the science teams found this thing sleeping in ancient ruins on a dead planet. The writings said it was created to fight and kill. Everyone thought they had found the perfect weapon. We're wrong. The Vorthok had woken up angry and stayed angry. It would not listen to commands. Computer chips planted in its brain did nothing. Drugs that should have made it sleepy only made it more violent. Even the best alien mind readers could not control it. "What about the electric shocks?" Park asked. "We tried that last week, sir. The creature just got angrier. It broke 3 metal bars with its bare hands afterward." Park remembered that day. The Vorthok had screamed, but not with its voice. The sound had come from inside everyone's head at the same time. Half the crew had fallen to their knees, bleeding from their ears. The creature's mind was so powerful it could hurt people just by thinking at them. The worst part was that the Vorthok seemed to understand exactly what they wanted from it. Sometimes Park caught it watching the war reports on the screens. Its eyes would follow the battle footage, and he could swear he saw intelligence there, maybe even sadness. But every time someone tried to work with it, violence followed. "The new scientist arrives today," Kim continued. "Dr. Lee something. She studies alien animal behavior." "Another expert," Park said with a bitter laugh. "They all think they can figure it out. They all think they're special." The last expert had been Dr. Williams, a man who claimed he could talk to any alien mind. The Vorthok had crushed his skull against the wall before he could even speak. Before that, there was Dr. Chen, who tried to use music to calm the creature. She lasted 2 days before it tore through her protective suit. Park looked at his hands. They were shaking slightly. Everyone on the station was on edge. The creature's angry thoughts leaked through the barriers meant to contain them. People had nightmares. Some crew members had asked to be transferred away from Titan-7. High Command was losing patience. Admiral Rodriguez had sent clear orders: make the weapon work or destroy it. They had 6 more hours to find a solution. "Sir, there's something else," Kim said quietly. "The new scientist is bringing her daughter with her." Park spun around. "What? This is a military base, not a school. Emergency evacuation from the outer colonies, sir. Nowhere else for the child to go right now." "How old? 8 years old, sir?" Park felt his stomach drop. Bad enough they had an uncontrollable monster on their station. Now they would have a small child here too. Children made noise. They were curious. They went places they should not go. As if reading his thoughts, the Vorthok suddenly stopped pacing and looked directly at him through the glass. Its glowing eyes seemed almost amused. Park felt cold fear run down his spine. "Double the security around the containment area," he ordered, "and make sure that child stays far away from this level." "Yes, sir." The creature tilted its massive head to one side, still watching Park. Then it did something it had never done before. It sat down on the floor, folded its arms, and waited, like it was listening to a conversation only it could hear. The alarm on Park's watch went off. Feeding time was coming soon. Another handler would have to enter the cage. Another person might die. Park wondered if Dr. Lee would be any different from the others. Probably not. The creature had made its feelings about humans very clear. It wanted nothing to do with them. In 6 hours, if nothing changed, they would pump poison gas into the containment cell and end the experiment forever. The weapon that was supposed to save humanity would die because no one could make it obey. The Vorthok continued to sit and stare, as if it knew exactly what Park was thinking. Dr. Lee Bo stepped off the transport ship holding her daughter's hand. Tightly, 8-year-old Han looked around with wide, curious eyes at all the soldiers and flashing warning lights. The military base was much bigger and scarier than their quiet research station had been. "Stay close to me, Han," Dr. Lee whispered as they walked through the security checkpoint. Guards scanned them with blue lights and checked their identification cards 3 times. Captain Park was waiting for them in the main corridor. He looked tired and angry. His uniform was wrinkled, and there were dark circles under his eyes. "Dr. Lee, I must protest bringing a child to this facility," Park said without greeting them first. This is an extremely dangerous situation. I understand your concerns, Captain, Dr. Lee replied calmly, but the evacuation left me no choice. Han will stay in the safe quarters while I work. She knows how to follow rules. Han nodded seriously, though she was more interested in watching the soldiers march past with their big weapons. Everything here seemed so important and urgent. Park looked down at the small girl with her messy black hair and bright smile. She did not look afraid at all. Most adults were terrified just knowing the creature was on the same station. Very well, Park said finally. But the child stays in Section C at all times. The containment level is completely off limits. They walked through long metal hallways lined with pipes and cables. Han counted the doors they passed. 12, 13, 14. Some had warning signs with pictures of skulls. Others had red lights that blinked on and off. What kind of animal am I studying? Dr. Lee asked as they walked. It's not an animal, Park said darkly. It's a weapon. 12 feet tall, nearly impossible to kill, and completely uncontrollable. We call it the Vorthok. Han perked up at this. She loved animals, even strange ones. Her mother had taught her about creatures from dozens of different planets. Maybe this one just needed a friend. They stopped at a room with thick metal doors. Through a small window, Han could see video screens showing a large dark shape moving around in what looked like a cage made of glowing light. 17 handlers dead in 3 months, Park continued. The creature responds to nothing, not commands, not drugs, not even our strongest mind control devices. Dr. Lee studied the screens carefully. The creature was pacing back and forth, in the same pattern, over and over. Its movements were not random or crazy. There was a rhythm to them, almost like a dance. Has anyone tried simply observing its behavior without trying to control it? She asked. Park looked at her like she was crazy. Observe it. Doctor, this thing could tear through these walls if it wanted to. We don't observe it, we contain it. While the adults talked, Han pressed her face against the window to get a better look. The creature on the screen was much bigger than any animal she had ever seen. Its skin looked like black armor, and it had claws as long as kitchen knives. But something about it seemed sad to her. The way it walked reminded her of the lonely dog that used to live behind their old house. It would pace along the fence the same way, back and forth, looking for someone to play with. Dr. Lee was shown to her temporary laboratory, a small room filled with computers and analysis equipment. Han was taken to their quarters, which had 2 beds, a small kitchen, and a window that looked out at the stars. I need to work now, Han, her mother said. You can watch movies on the computer or draw pictures, but promise me you will not leave this room. I promise, Mom, Han said, though she was already thinking about those video screens and the sad creature walking in circles. After her mother left, Han tried to watch a cartoon, but she kept thinking about the animal in the cage. On her home planet, whenever an animal acted mean, it was usually because it was scared or hurt. Maybe the Vorthok was just scared too. She remembered the access code her mother had typed to get into their room. 4729. Dr. Lee always used the same numbers because she said they were easy to remember. Han waited until she heard her mother's footsteps disappear down the hallway. Then she quietly opened the door and peeked out. The corridor was empty except for one guard at the far end, and he was not looking her way. She had counted 14 doors on the way to their room. The door with the warning signs had been numbered 8. Han walked carefully down the hallway, staying close to the wall. When she found the observation room, the door was locked, but there was another door marked secondary viewing that opened when she pressed the handle. Inside was a smaller room with one big window looking down into the containment area. Han climbed onto a chair to see better. The Vorthok was sitting in the middle of its glowing cage, not moving. As soon as Han appeared at the window, its massive head turned to look directly at her. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Han was not afraid. The creature's eyes were not mean or angry like she had expected. They looked tired and lonely. "Halad," Han whispered against the glass. The Vorthok tilted its head, listening. The alarm bells were so loud that Han covered her ears with her hands. Red lights flashed everywhere, making the hallways look like they were on fire. She could hear people running and shouting over the noise. "Emergency. All personnel to battle stations." Captain Park's voice boomed from speakers in the walls. "The creature has broken containment." Han pressed herself against the observation window and looked down at the Vorthok's cage. 2 of the 3 glowing barriers were gone. Sparks flew from broken machines, and pieces of metal lay scattered on the floor. The creature stood in the center, much bigger than she had thought. Its black armor gleamed under the emergency lights, but it was not trying to break the last barrier. It was just standing there, looking around like it was confused. Down in the main corridor, soldiers ran past carrying huge weapons. Dr. Lee was among them, her face white with fear. "Where is my daughter?" she shouted at a guard. "Han should be in the quarters." "No time, Doctor," Park yelled back. "We have 60 seconds before this thing breaks free and kills everyone on the station." Han wanted to call out to her mother, but something stopped her. The Vorthok had noticed all the people gathering outside its cage. As soon as it saw the weapons pointed at it, everything changed. The creature's eyes turned bright red with anger. It let out a sound that was not quite a roar and not quite a scream. The noise did not come through the air, it came directly into Han's head, so loud and sharp that she fell off her chair. Everyone in the hallway below fell down too, holding their heads and crying out in pain. Blood trickled from some people's ears. The Vorthok's mind was screaming at them all at once. Overload the containment field, Park ordered, struggling to stand up. 30 seconds. Technicians ran to a control panel covered in blinking lights and switches. Han realized what they were going to do. They were going to hurt the creature with electricity until it died. The Vorthok seemed to understand too. It threw itself at the last barrier with desperate fury. Each time it hit the glowing wall, lightning crackled and the whole station shook. Cracks appeared in the concrete walls around the cage. 20 seconds. Someone shouted. Han looked at all the scared people with their weapons. Then she looked at the creature throwing itself against the barrier over and over. It reminded her of a bird she had once seen trapped in a cage, hurting itself trying to get out. Nobody was watching her. Everyone was focused on the countdown or trying to stay away from the creature's angry thoughts. Han slipped out of the observation room and ran down the stairs to the main floor. 15 seconds. The soldiers were too busy aiming their weapons to notice one small girl walking between them. Dr. Lee was shouting something, but her words were lost in the noise of alarms and the creature's mental screams. Han walked right up to the control panel, where the technicians were preparing to kill the Vorthok. The creature saw her coming. For a moment, it stopped attacking the barrier and stared down at her. 10 seconds. Up close, the Vorthok was even more frightening. Its claws could cut her in half with one swipe. Its teeth were as long as her fingers. But Han could see past all of that to something else. The same lonely sadness she had noticed before, but now mixed with terrible fear. The creature knew it was about to die. It was scared. 5 seconds. A technician's finger hovered over a big red button. Around the room, soldiers held their breath and kept their weapons ready. Dr. Lee finally spotted her daughter and screamed her name. But it was too late to reach her. Han looked up at the massive creature behind the crackling energy wall. It had stopped fighting and was looking directly at her with those strange, intelligent eyes. In that moment, she saw the truth that all the adults had missed. The Vorthok was not a monster, it was not a weapon. It was just scared and alone, surrounded by people who wanted to hurt it. It had been trying to protect itself the only way it knew how. Han spoke clearly and calmly, the way her mother had taught her to speak to frightened animals. Sit. The word cut through all the noise and chaos like a knife through paper. The Vorthok immediately stopped everything it was doing. Its massive body lowered to the floor in one smooth motion. Sitting like an enormous, obedient dog. The containment field stopped crackling. The alarms went quiet. Even the emergency lights stopped flashing. In the sudden silence, everyone could hear their own breathing and heartbeats. Every person in the room stared at the small 8-year-old girl standing fearlessly in front of their uncontrollable weapon. The creature that had killed 17 trained handlers was sitting peacefully, waiting for Han's next command. Captain Park's mouth hung open. Dr. Lee's eyes filled with tears of relief and amazement. The soldiers slowly lowered their weapons, not sure what to do next. Han reached out and placed her small hand against the energy barrier. The Vorthok leaned forward as much as it could, trying to get closer to her touch. Good, Han said softly. You're not scary at all, are you? You're just lonely. The news traveled faster than anyone expected. Within 3 days, scientists from every planet in human space were calling Titan 7. They all wanted to know the same thing. How did a small child control the most dangerous creature in the galaxy? Dr. Lee sat in the observation room with her daughter, watching Han feed the Vorthok. Through a special feeding tube, the creature, which Han had named Guardian, waited patiently for each piece of food. When Han said wait, it stopped eating. When she said okay, it continued. I still don't understand it, Captain Park said, shaking his head. 17 of our best handlers are dead, but your daughter walks up and says one word, and the thing obeys like a trained pet. Han looked up from her feeding duties. Guardian isn't a thing, Captain Park. Guardian is sad and scared. All those other people were mean to Guardian. Mean? Dr. Lee asked gently. How were they mean, sweetheart? Han thought for a moment, trying to find the right words. They looked at Guardian like Guardian was a monster. They wanted to hurt Guardian and make Guardian fight. Guardian could feel that in their thoughts. Dr. Lee had been studying the security recordings for days. Every handler who died had approached the creature with fear, anger, or the desire to control it. They saw it as a weapon to be used, not a living being to be understood. Guardian can read minds? Park asked. Not read, Han said, scratching Guardian's massive head through a special opening in the barrier. Guardian can feel what people feel. When people are scared of Guardian, Guardian gets scared too. When people want to hurt Guardian, Guardian wants to hurt them back. Dr. Lee nodded slowly. Emotional telepathy. The creature responds to feelings, not thoughts or commands. She had discovered something amazing in the old alien writings. The Vorthok were not created to be weapons at all. They were guardians, creatures made to protect the children of the ancient alien race that built them. The writings called them heart-bonded protectors. So Guardian was made to take care of children? Han asked, her eyes lighting up. That's right. And when Guardian woke up, instead of finding children to protect, Guardian found adults who wanted to use Guardian as a weapon. Guardian's protective instincts turned into defensive ones. Han had been visiting Guardian every day since the incident. She brought books and read stories aloud. She drew pictures and held them up to the barrier. Sometimes she just sat and talked about her day. Guardian listened to everything, making soft rumbling sounds that almost sounded like a giant cat purring. The most amazing part was that Guardian never showed any aggression when Han was around. The creature's angry mental screams had completely stopped. The headaches that plagued the station crew were gone. Other children should meet Guardian too, Han announced one morning. Guardian likes children. Guardian wants to protect them. Dr. Lee was nervous about this idea, but she arranged for some of the younger crew members to visit. 18-year-old technician Min was the first volunteer. He was barely more than a child himself, with a kind face and gentle manner. When Min entered the observation room, Guardian looked at him curiously but showed no signs of aggression. Han introduced them like she was introducing to friends at school. Guardian, this is Min. Min, this is Guardian. Min is nice. Guardian, he fixes computers and he likes to draw pictures like me. Guardian studied Min for a long moment, then made the same soft rumbling sound it made for Han. When Min nervously said hello, Guardian tilted its massive head in response. Soon, other young crew members were visiting. Guardian seemed to judge each person by their intentions and feelings. Those who came with genuine curiosity and kindness were accepted. Those who still saw Guardian as a weapon were ignored, but Han remained special. Guardian would obey her commands instantly and completely. When she told Guardian to lie down, it did. When she said to stand up, it stood. The bond between them was unlike anything the scientists had ever seen. It's remarkable, Dr. Lee explained. To a group of alien researchers over video link, my daughter approaches Guardian with pure empathy. She doesn't want anything from Guardian except friendship. Guardian senses this and responds with trust and protectiveness. The alien researchers were fascinated. The insect-like hive creatures, in particular, were very interested. They had found sleeping Vorthok on several planets, but could never wake them up. Their logical, emotionless minds could not provide what the Guardians needed. Would the human child consider visiting our worlds? Asked the Hive Queen through the translator. We have many sleeping Guardians. Perhaps they would wake for her as well. Captain Park was not sure about this idea. It's too dangerous. We can't risk the child's safety. But Han was excited. I want to help wake up the other Guardians. They must be so lonely, sleeping all alone. Dr. Lee looked at her daughter with pride and worry. Han had already changed everything about the war just by being kind to one scared creature. Now she might change the relationship between entire alien races. Guardians seemed to sense the importance of these discussions. It watched the adult conversations carefully, its intelligent eyes moving between speakers as if it understood every word. The universe was about to discover that sometimes the most powerful force was not weapons or technology, but the simple kindness of a child's heart. The spaceship New Sol was the biggest vessel Han had ever seen. It was 3 times larger than the transport ships that traveled between planets, with thick armor and powerful weapons. But today, it carried diplomats instead of soldiers. Han pressed her face against the round window in her cabin, watching the Hive homeworld grow bigger as they approached. The planet looked like a giant ball covered in crystal cities that sparkled in the sunlight. She had never seen anything so beautiful. Guardian lay curled around Han's chair, taking up most of the small room. The massive creature had not wanted to leave Han's side, even for the journey to alien space. Captain Park had worried about bringing Guardian on the ship, but Han insisted they were a team now. Are you excited to meet your family? Han asked Guardian, scratching behind what she thought might be ears under the armored head. Guardian made the deep rumbling sound that meant yes. Through their special connection, Han could feel Guardian's emotions. Nervous excitement mixed with hope. Guardian had been alone for so long that the idea of meeting other Vorthok was both wonderful and scary. Dr. Lee entered the cabin, carrying 2 cups of hot chocolate. She looked worried, like she always did when Han was about to do something dangerous. The Hive Queen wants to meet with us in 1 hour, she said, handing Han a cup. Remember what we discussed about being polite to aliens who look different from us? Han nodded seriously. She had studied pictures of the hive creatures. They looked like giant insects with multiple arms and big compound eyes. Most humans found them frightening, but Han thought they were just another kind of person. The ship landed in a crystal courtyard surrounded by tall spires that twisted up toward the sky. When the doors opened, Han gasped at the sight of hundreds of hive creatures waiting to greet them. They clicked and buzzed to each other in their own language, creating a sound like a forest full of insects. The hive queen was twice as tall as the others, with golden armor covering her insect body. Her forearms moved gracefully as she spoke. Through a translation device, "Welcome, small human child," the queen's mechanical voice said. "We have great hope that you can help our sleeping guardians." Han walked forward without fear, guardians staying close beside her. The hive creatures moved back to give the massive Vorthok plenty of room, but Han noticed they did not look afraid. They looked hopeful. "Where are the sleeping guardians?" Han asked politely. The queen led them through crystal hallways to a vast underground chamber. 3 Vorthok lay in glass containers filled with glowing blue liquid. They looked exactly like Guardian but smaller, and their eyes were closed in deep sleep. "We found them on dead worlds where the ancient ones once lived," the queen explained. "We have tried everything to wake them, but they do not respond to our minds." Han approached the first container and placed her small hand on the glass surface. The sleeping Vorthok inside was about Guardian size, with the same black armor and sharp claws, but something felt different about this one. "Hello," Han said softly. "My name is Han. I'm a friend." At first, nothing happened. Then the creature's eyes slowly opened, glowing with soft blue light. It looked around in confusion until it saw Han's face pressed against the glass. Recognition sparked in its alien features. Within an hour, all 3 Vorthok were awake and out of their containers. They gathered around Han like enormous pets, making the same rumbling sounds that Guardian made when he was happy. But the most amazing thing happened when they saw Guardian. The 4 Vorthok touched heads in a way that reminded Han of cats greeting each other. They made new sounds, musical notes that seemed to carry meaning beyond words. Guardian's whole body relaxed in a way Han had never seen before. He was not alone anymore. But then something unexpected happened. One of the newly awakened Vorthok suddenly became alert, its head turning toward the ceiling, as if listening to something far away. It made urgent clicking sounds to the others. Guardian immediately moved to stand in front of Han, his protective instincts activating. The other 3 Vorthok took similar protective positions around the humans and hive creatures in the room. "What's wrong?" Han asked, placing her hand on Guardian's leg. Through their connection, she felt Guardian's alarm. Something was coming. From the dark spaces between stars, something hungry and dangerous that made even the mighty Vorthok afraid. The Hive Queen's translator crackled with urgent messages from her scouts. Unknown ships approaching from deep space. Energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. Double quotes. Dr. Lee grabbed Han's hand. "We need to get back to the ship." But Han looked at the 4 Vorthok standing ready to protect everyone in the room. She understood now why the ancient aliens had created these creatures. They were not weapons of war, they were guardians against something much worse than any conflict between planets. "The guardians know what's coming," Han said quietly. "This is why they were made. Not to fight each other, but to protect everyone from the dark things." The war between humans and hive creatures suddenly seemed very small and unimportant. Something far more dangerous was approaching, and only the awakened guardians stood between them and destruction. Tan looked up at Guardian's glowing eyes and made a decision that would change 3 civilizations forever. "We're going to need more guardians," she said.